The topic of my talk is it's about the intra-European migration of highly qualified workers with a focus on Germany. And so basically I will present the results of a mixed method study I did during the last years about European physicians who came to Germany to work in Germany. So it's a study about very specific professions, the physicians. This profession is characterized by a very high labor shortage within the European Union, and this is a very high-skilled profession. So this is a study on a very particular profession, and the migration reasons and the migration plans of these European physicians who work in Germany. So why I am studying this, so here are some pictures on the evolution of the immigration within to Western Europe. So on the top right you see the typical immigrants who came in the 60s to Germany, to Western Europe. So basically they were the so-called guest workers, and until the 90s it was the main type of immigration coming to Western Europe. So there were low-skilled immigrants coming basically around from the Mediterranean countries. Then from the 90s onwards there has been a strong diversification of the types and forms of immigrants coming to, of migration and immigrants coming to Western Europe. So here you see physicians, for instance, coming from somewhere outside of Europe. Then you see the students, foreign students, or asylum seekers and refugees. So basically, in order to understand the current immigrant population within the European Union, we need to take into account this diversity, and so we need to focus on more particular group of immigrants. And so this is the idea behind this project. It was to focus on one particular type of immigration, so intra-European immigration of highly skilled workers. The outline of my presentation, I will first explain why it is important to understand or to study intra-European migration. Then the research question, how far can we speak of a brain gain or brain circulation when we look at European physicians who work in Germany. Then the study design, then the results, and there are two parts in the results. First, the reason for migration, so why did they decide to come to Germany, and then whether they plan to stay in Germany, and then I will conclude. So first of all, intra-European migration. The European Union is a unique migration space, and this is because of three main components. First of all, free movement rights, so basically as European citizen, one has the right to cross borders without any constraints. Then the European citizenship, one has, if one lives in another member state than the member state of the own citizenship, one has basically the same rights with the exception of some political rights than the natives. Then the institutional educational mobility, so the fact that the European Union has tried to increase mobility also among students, for instance, with the Erasmus exchange program. So that has been also an increase in the number of Europeans who cross borders for several months, for instance, during their study. Until the asylum seeker crisis of 2015, it was also the largest migration flow within the European Union. So it's a very important also type of migration. It also has become a polarizing issue in both sending and destination countries. So for instance, in Spain, in the media, there has been a debate about the extent to which the economic crisis in Spain led to brain drain, so Spain losing his brains. And in the UK, the topic of intra-European migration was one of the most important topics during the Brexit referendum campaign 2 years ago. And lastly, it is an important topic because it can lead to new asymmetries between European member states. So this is basically the main issue of my project here. So the idea of brain gain for Germany. So if the European physicians really contribute to the emergence of a brain gain for Germany, this means that some sending countries are losing their investment in the education of their citizens to become physicians. So this means this can sharpen the asymmetries between well-off countries such as Germany, who that basically receive the immigrants, the highly skilled immigrants, and the sending countries that who lose their investment on education. So those are the main reasons why this type of migration is important to investigate. And then to give you an idea about the importance of this migration with two charts. So first of all, this is the intra-European migration flow since 2015 for the main receiving countries within the EU. So you see that Germany is the main destination country with a little bit less than 500,000 of Europeans who moved to Germany in 2015, followed by the UK, and this was 2015, 250,000 Europeans who came to the UK. Then chart on the intra-European migration, on the European immigration to Germany. There has been also a large increase. Here you see the different regions of origin of the Europeans who came to Germany. On the left bar, the dark bar is the immigration flow of 2007, and the right bar is for 2013. So you see a large increase in a total of European who came to Germany, and this increase is basically due to the fact that Germany opened its labor markets to citizens from the new member states in 2009. So this means that citizens from the new member states here and here, there has been this increase is mainly due to this to the fact that the citizens were able to come to Germany and to work in Germany. Now I'm coming to my research question. So how far can we speak of brain gain or brain circulation when one look at highly skilled Europeans who came to Germany? So when we speak of brain gain, if this highly skilled immigrants plan to stay permanently in Germany, and if so this would mean that Germany would benefit from their skills without having to pay for their education. By contrast, I would speak of brain circulation if these highly skilled immigrants only plan to stay for several years in the destination country and have then further migration plans. So whether going to a third country or returning back to their home country. So it might be that these highly skilled immigrants only want to stay for several years in Germany just to gain some experience and then go back in their country with their new experience. So the extent to which highly skilled immigrants or immigrants want to stay permanently in a country or have further migration plans depends, among other, on the push and pull factors here. So the push factors are the factors that made these immigrants leave their country, so why did they decide to leave their country? And the pull factors are the factors that make them decide to came to the destination country, so why Germany? And then there are also absorption factors, so this is referred to the integration of these immigrants. So if those immigrants are are very well integrated on the labor market in Germany, then they are much more likely to plan to stay permanently in Germany than if they feel some discrimination or if they don't have the same chance as a native on the labor market. But it's not only about integration on the labor market, it might be also social integration, so having friends or having also a family. So if these immigrants get to know Germans and get married with some Germans, and this is a very strong absorption factor, so having spouse from the destination country. So one needs to take this into account in order to see whether one can speak of a brain gain or brain circulation scenario in the case of European physicians in Germany, in this case. The state-of-the-art debate. There is there is a debate on the international brain drain, brain gain. This debate is basically driven by economists who use migration flow statistics at the national level. So this means that they do not take into account the individual decisions of immigrants and the migration plans. There has been also a debate. debate in the last years on the existence of intra-European brain drain, brain gain. This debate emerged as a result of the economic crisis in some of the European countries, because of course this economic crisis has led to brain drain for some of these countries, such as Spain or Greece. So there's a lot of highly skilled workers there decided to leave the country in order to get a job somewhere else. So, but here again, this debate is based on statistics, migration flow statistics that do not take into account the individual decisions of the immigrants. So this is why I think it is important to also look at micro data and individual data and see the extent to which when we look at the migration plans or migration decisions, whether this match the defining of this international debates. Now I'm coming to my hypothesis. I expect to find a kind of hierarchy along the origin countries, and so I expect to find more evidence for brain gain scenario for the physicians coming from the poorest European countries. So I expect this hierarchy to follow, to correspond to the economic differentials between, to the size of the economic differentials between the destination country and the origin country. So basically, the idea is that physicians coming from the top poorest European countries, so like Bulgaria, Croatia, and Romania, so those are the newest European member states, and they are also the poorest ones, that those physicians are much more likely than the other one to plan to stay permanently in Germany and to have migrated for economic reasons. Then followed by the physicians from the member states of 2004, then Southwest European physicians, and then Northwest European physicians. So basically, I expect to find more evidence for brain circulation scenario for the Northwest European physicians. So here, the idea would be that those physicians from Northwest Europe do not necessarily plan to stay permanently in Germany and did not stress the economic reasons in their decision to immigrate. So the analysis is based on two variables. The first one is the migration reasons, so the extent to which the physicians decided to immigrate because of economic reasons, and then the migration plans, so whether they want to stay in Germany or whether they want to move further. So now I'm coming to study design. It's a mixed method study, so this month I first run a survey among European physicians who work in Germany, and then in a second step, based on the result of the survey, I selected some respondents, some physicians, and I did some, with my team, some qualitative interviews with them to deepen the results of the survey. So, as I already mentioned, I focus on physicians because it is a highly skilled profession with a large labor shortage in the EU. So this means I am likely to find evidence for brain gain scenario here, because those physicians, their skills are in demand in most of the European countries, and then I'm focusing on Germany because it is the country with the largest intra-European immigration. So for the survey, I sample European physicians who registered, so every person who wants to work as physician in Germany needs to register in one of the German local state chambers of physicians. So this means that these local state chambers have access, will have a register with all physicians. So with the help of these local state chambers, I was able to draw a sample of the entire population of European physicians. So I selected European physicians who registered after 2003 in one of these local state chambers of physicians. I wanted to focus on those physicians who moved recently to Germany. The questionnaire was very broad, and among other, there were some questions about the reasons why they immigrated, and their migration plans. So those are the questions I will analyze here. So there are 17 local state chambers of physicians in Germany. 13 agree to draw a sample for us. The data collection took part 2 years ago. It was a postal survey with one reminder. And so the response at the end, we have sample size of 1,607 European physicians. The response rate is 23%. Some descriptive statistics. So I grouped the physicians into regions of origin that match or that differ in the size of economic differential with Germany. So the first group, so physicians from Bulgaria, Romania, and Croatia, are the physicians coming from the poorest countries. So 21% of the sample is from this region. Then the physicians from the member states that joined the EU in 2004. Then Southwestern Europeans, the Northwestern Europeans, and then the Austrians. I kept them separated in the analysis because there are a lot of them, so almost 14% of the sample, and because they speak the same language as the destination countries, so German, and so this means that they are much more likely to have different migration reasons and plans than the other who do not have German as first language. On the right side you see the age of arrival, and you see that most of them came to Germany before they were 30 years old, so they immigrated when they were relatively young and still in their study, most of them. Now I'm coming to present very briefly the qualitative data collection. So I did a typology. I drew a typology based on the survey data in order to find some migration profiles among the physicians. So I won't go into the details here, but basically, based on this typology, I then selected 37 respondents who agreed to take part in a follow-up interview. So the aim here of these interviews was to interpret and contextualize the results of the survey. And so here I will present some excerpts from the interviews that illustrates the results I have from the survey. So I'm coming to the first part of my results, the reasons for migration. So in the questionnaire, we asked physicians to rate the importance of 23 different emigration and immigration reasons. I regrouped them, so I ran a factor analysis and regrouped them in order to have fewer dimensions that measure these migration reasons. So one can regroup these 23 different reasons into 7 reasons, so it's 7 dimensions. So here you see these dimensions. They all range from 0 to 10, with 10 being a very important reason and 0 not important at all. So the most important reasons for immigration among physicians was the career perspectives, then followed by the language reasons, then the economic reasons, the family reasons, proximity reasons, then other macro reasons which are not economic, such as the political stability or corruption in the home country. And the last type of reasons are the contact reasons, so whether they had some network in Germany. So basically here one sees that the economic reasons were not the most important reason for them to immigrate, and we see that the physicians have had a lot of various reasons to decide to move to Germany. In a second step, I then analyzed specifically the economic reason, because I'm interested in the question of potential brain gain for Germany. So the idea here is to see whether physicians from the poorest countries of origin, whether those physicians mention the economic reasons to a larger extent. Because if this is the case, then it is likely that they will stay in Germany as long as these economic differentials remain. So this means for a long time. So here are the results of linear regression analysis for the economic reason as dependent variable. For this model, I control for the gender, whether they were in a love relationship prior to migration, the age of arrival in Germany, and the year of arrival. And so here you see the coefficients for the different regions of origin. The reference category is the physicians from Northwestern Europe. So basically, how to interpret this graph? So basically, if the coefficient and the confidence intervals of the bars cross the zero line, this means that the coefficient is not significantly significant. So this means that physicians from this region of origin do not differ from Northwestern Europeans with regard to the importance of the economic reasons. So for instance, for the Austrians, the confidence interval crossed the zero line, so this means that for the Austrians, the economic reasons were not more or less important, were not significantly more or less important than for the Northwestern Europeans. By contrast, for the three other regions of origin, one see that the confidence intervals of the bar do not cross the zero line, so this means these coefficients are significant, and they are positive, so this means that for the physicians from these three regions, so from Eastern Europe and from Southern Europe, that they are much more likely to have, significantly much more likely to have mentioned that economic reasons were very important compared to Northwest Europeans. Do you have questions here on the graph? No? Okay.
I had a question beforehand. Is it okay to ask that? Language reasons, why was that so high?
Because, well, there are Austrians, 15% Austrians in the sample, and there are also a lot of physicians from Eastern Europe who mentioned that they came for, they wanted to improve the German, so yeah.
Can I ask something too?
Yeah.
Did any of them move because they just wanted to live in another country for a while and then went to another country and whatever, just because they wanted to travel and see other countries?
Yes, it was part of the reason. So at the end of the questionnaire, they could also mention other reasons that were not mentioned in the questionnaire. But it was always why Germany. It was always because of one of these. Well, they mentioned also it was not only to have a new experience and to lifestyle experience. It was always combined with one of these more structural reasons, like I showed here. Yeah.
How did you differentiate between career reasons and economic reasons? Because it seems to me that having a good career, advancing your career, is the same thing as wanting to have a better economic situation. So what's the difference between those two? Why aren't they all like kind of in one line together? How did you break those out?
I didn't break that out. It was the physicians themselves. So basically, I can show you the questionnaire briefly. Yes, here. So they had 23 reasons to. So those are the immigration reasons, and then we have also the immigration reasons. And basically, based on this, so they all answer to each of these reasons, whether this reason was important or not. And then I run an analysis in order to see the dimensions that were in the minds of the physicians. So basically, it was the physicians themselves who distinguished between, on one hand, career prospects, so it's here, and on the other hand, other reasons. So the economic reasons were, for instance, the economic situation in the home country or in Germany, welfare, social security, and then income, level of income, working conditions. So it all deals with money and with income, and this reason was these reasons were really distinct from the career prospects. So this item here. So this means that they for them it's two different migration reasons.
Okay.
But they are correlated. So a lot of them who mentioned economic reasons also mentioned career reasons, but the other ones not true. So a lot of people who mentioned career reasons did not necessarily mention economic reasons. For instance, physicians from Austria, Northwest Europe. So for them, they came for career reasons, for instance, but for them, the economic reasons were not important. So
I propose that we hold the questions so
Yeah.
she can finish the presentation. It's very exciting stuff.
Okay. So basically, here I can confirm my hypothesis that the difference between the origin country follow the size of the economic differentials between Germany and the origin countries, because the physicians from the poorest member states or the newest member states are the ones who mentioned economic reasons to a much larger extent. So, interim conclusion based on the migration reasons. So I showed that the physicians had a lot of heterogeneous migration reasons why they came to Germany. So one cannot summarize their migration reasons to economic or career reasons. And then second, the difference due to the regions of origin correspond to the size of the economic differential with Germany. That's what I just explained. So now I'm just showing you an excerpt of an interview that's basically show this heterogeneous migration reasons. This is within a very short few sentences of this respondent. The woman coming from Hungary. She was 26 years old. That's migration. So she said, so I was doing my internship here in a city in Germany, and I learned German there, and then I went back to Hungary. I did my PhD thesis and my exams, and I started to work there. I then noticed that I was forgetting German. I didn't want to forget it. I applied for a fellowship for 6 months, and so did I come to Freiburg. And on the one hand, I found a very, very good clinic there. On the other hand, I met a very kind man. The combination of both led me to apply here. I didn't get directly the position here, but somehow I managed to be able to stay here. And this was 6 years ago. So here you see that she came basically for language reasons, but at the end, it's a mix between career reasons, language reasons, and love. Then two excerpts that focus on difference due to the origin. This is someone from Bulgaria, so one of the poorest country of the sample. So we asked them to discuss the reasons why they left the country, and then explain the reasons why they chose Germany. So for immigration reasons, and then there was the large economic crisis, which year was it, 2008 or 2009? At that time, the political situation in Bulgaria worsened, and we did not see any real perspective there. With perspective, I mean we wanted to do our job according to the standards, so we wanted to earn enough money in order to avoid taking side jobs. We had side jobs, sometimes more than one. And then why Germany? She said what was more important was that the political system here in Germany is relatively stable and the society is relatively stable. This means there are not too many large fluctuations. The society also has a kind of structure. Hopefully it will continue like that. And overall, this feeling that we have here, there is a state and the state works. All in all, when we added everything up, then so came the decision. So basically, they decided to come to Germany not because Germany is well off and wealthy, but more because of the political stability of Germany. So here is also a mix between economic reasons and political reasons. Then another example from a man coming from the Netherlands, so one of the richest country in the sample. I come from Holland and worked a while in a research project, and it was an international research project, and I had at the time some contacts with physicians in Germany, and there was one who worked in a city in Germany, and she knew the professor here, and then as my research project was almost over and I had to become an assistant physician, and my orientation was pediatry, I looked around, of course, in the Netherlands. There were some alternatives there, but the professor told me, yes, in Germany there are also positions, and I know some people. I could ask whether they have some open positions. In case you're interested, you could also apply there. And there was, in a city in Germany, such a position. She sent me the call for application, and as I was looking for a position was available here. So here it was basically, you didn't even mind changing or immigrating, and it was just because of the opportunity to work to get a job. So here the economic reasons are not at all important in this case. So now I'm coming to the migration plans. It was a question about the future country of residence, so where they plan to live. And so, as you see here, the physicians could give very diverse answers. So, 36% of the sample wanted to stay in Germany, 25% didn't know where they wanted to live, and then 21% wanted to go back to their home country, 11% wanted to commute between the country of origin and Germany, and 5% wanted to go to a third country. Here again, I look at the difference due to the country of origin of the physicians. So the blue coefficients are for Germany, the red one are for country of origin, so going back to the country of origin, and the green one I don't know yet. So I focus here on the three main answers that were given by the physicians. And so here I control for gender, whether they are currently in a love relationship, whether they have kids, age at arrival, and the length of stay. And so here, I won't go into the details here, but what is important to see is that for the coefficient for Germany, for the physicians from the poorest countries, so Bulgaria, Romania, and Croatia, this is basically the only very significant coefficient, and it's positive, so this means that physicians from Bulgaria, Romania, and Croatia are significantly much more likely to mention that they want to stay in Germany than the Northwest European physicians. Interim conclusion here, I show the physicians have also different various migration plans. This is also important to see that 25% of the sample didn't know where they wanted to live in the future. So this corresponds to this idea of internet unpredictability among intra-European migrants. So because they do not feel any constraint, there are no constraints to cross borders in the European Union, European immigrants are able to keep their option open and just to see what happens without planning a lot about their future migration plans here. And then permanent immigration is much more likely among physicians from Bulgaria, Romania, and Croatia. And so, because of time constraint, I will only here show an excerpt for this concept of internet unpredictability. So this idea that physicians, about 25% of the sample keep their option open and answer that they didn't know where they wanted to live in the future. So this is someone from Romania, 25 years old at migration, and he arrived 9 years ago in Germany. He said, at the beginning, when things maybe 6 weeks or 6 months after the probation, I go back home. Then when things at some point, okay, I go back after the end of my contract, after 1 or 2 years. And then once the first contract is over, when things, okay, then I'll stay for 5 years. And one postpones the deadline 2 or 3 times, and then at some time, when things, okay, here's my new home. So this is, yeah, the idea that one keep the option open until one think, okay, no, doesn't make sense to think about going back home. Now coming to my conclusion. So to which extent can we speak of brain circulation or brain gain in the case of European physicians in Germany? As almost always in social sciences, I found some ambivalent findings. There are some evidence for the brain circulation scenario. This idea that physicians have various migration reasons and plans, and those cannot be reduced to sole economic reasons or to permanent immigration. This idea also of internet unpredictability, that a lot of physicians want to keep their option open. So these two results are in some way an indication of an integrated European labour market where physicians are able to move further if their skills is needed in another country. So this is this idea of brain circulation. On the other hand, I also find some evidence for the brain gain scenario because the difference due to the origin of the physicians with regard to the migration reasons and plans correspond to the size of the economic differential with Germany. So this can lead to new inequalities between the member states with regard to member states that are more prosperous like Germany and the other ones, and that benefit from the intra-European immigration of highly skilled workers versus the other ones who lose their highly skilled population. For the next step, of course, this is study among a very particular profession. So this one need to, for instance, to speak very well the language of the country of destination in order to be able to work as physicians. So this would be interesting to look at other highly skilled professions with less constraints for being able to work in another country, such as engineers or IT specialists. And of course, it was only one country of destination, so it would be interesting to look at other countries. And then this is also the idea that there might be a the results I showed here are just part of a brain chain scenario. So the fact that also a lot of German physicians are leaving Germany to go to more prosperous countries, providing more higher income, such as Switzerland or the US or the UK. So this might lead to the fact that Germany needs the labor of physicians from other European countries. It might be due to the fact that Germany is also losing its physicians for more prosperous countries. So then we need another design for studying this. So thanks a lot for your attention.